Bloomberg Audio Studios.
Podcasts, radio, news.
Single best idea on a Friday after an incredible week. I can't say enough to you worldwide and across the nation. We complain about the traffic, but the excitement of UN week here in New York City is palpable. Getting home, Gura had it much worse than I did. I talked to Chart Banner, of course, who does all our banners and charts. Chart Banner took 2.5 hours to get home. I think it was last night. It was just brutal. And so we're all struggling with this, but the fact is it was an exciting week. And, of course, led by the news flow, the stunning shock out of China that we saw. The best thing for us was the hallmark of what we do at Bloomberg Surveillance and what we try to bring to you in 6 minutes on Single Best Idea, which is the conversation with guests. To have Michael Mauboussin with us on Wednesday, and today Nassim Taleb was a really special treat, both of them an extended conversation. Nassim Taleb of the Black Swan on your humility.
The point is you don't need humility. Humility actually is not necessary. I don't mind people are arrogant. There's just got to be paranoid about the right things, namely how much an error costs you when it happens, that ruin problem. And basically Scott's book is about ruin problems. So you could be arrogant about everything, all right? You can be wrong all the time, doesn't matter.
Like pandemics.
Just you gotta avoid ruin. The big things. You gotta be right about the big sources of risk, and the rest take care of itself.
Nassim Taleb there, of course, in support of Scott Patterson's Kings of Chaos. It's a new book out. We'll have much more on it. It's a book with some real tension for global Wall Street. Another great book on diversification, as Peter Lynch would call it, on diversification, on all the traps of asset allocation, is Beyond Diversification. Sebastien Page at T. Rowe Price holding court on that. He joined us today. Sebastien Page on Nassim Taleb.
I'm really excited that you have Taleb coming in. I talk about his research in the book, his points of views. This idea of the number of particles in the universe is that Taleb doesn't like the normal distribution, the so-called standard statistical models. And if you look at probabilities of, say, 30% loss on the stock market, or what we just had with Japan, 20% in a couple days. If you look at the statistical standard probabilities of those events, it should basically almost never happen. It's like once in a gazillion years, once in the number of particles in the universe number of years. But in reality, those events are more frequent than we think. So maybe this dovetails with Taleb coming in, but it's hugely important.
It's huge. Sebastien Page there getting me all wound up with T. Rowe Price. Brockton, do we need to do some math here? I think we need to do some probability distribution. Okay, Sebastian's talking about a Gaussian distribution. That is the bell curve, like of your high school class. Okay, short people off here, tall people way over there. In the middle is some kind of middle tendency. And the heart of the Talebian theory, with many other people on Wall Street, is it's basically a Newtonian fiction. It's a Gaussian. Gauss was a guy in the 19th century. It's a Gaussian fiction. So what matters? And you heard Sebastien Page there talk about the 1 in a gazillion chance. The mathematics of this, and all of you watch The Little Mermaid, so you'll get this. The mathematics of this is when they paint 10,000 BMWs, how many do they get wrong? 1, 2, 3? It's the mathematics of rare events. And the gentleman from France that came up with this was Poisson. When I lecture on this, I go, you remember Little Mermaid, Poisson, ooh la la, And the answer is the world we live in investment in trying to not lose money is a Poisson world, not a Gaussian world. You still with me, Brockton, or did I just, we're just gone? Okay, let's move on. One of the great traditions we have here at Bloomberg Surveillance, they came to me with this years ago. I said, you got to be kidding me. We're not doing this. And boy, was I wrong. What a joy to speak in the autumn before Harvard-Yale with a Harvard football coach. We do this on 92.9 FM in Boston. I think it's Brown Harvard tomorrow, 12 noon. Great. They got a newly minted coach. Andrew Aurich, he's there, and he's like doing a serious conversation because his press people said, you got to, and Gura's doing, how about this linebacker and what do you do against Brown? I just wanted to ask Andrew Aurich, he was with Tampa Bay years ago coaching. I just wanted to ask Andrew Aurich of Harvard football, can you explain the new NFL kickoff?
I really can't because I haven't dove into, other than when I saw it in some games. To me, the way I understand it is you can kick it into the end zone for a touchback, but there's a penalty as far as what yard line they start at. But the NFL is trying to create more returns, I believe, and you have to drop it in the zone. And if the ball gets kicked in that zone, then the return happens. And essentially what they're trying to do is shrink down the distance between the return team and the kickoff team so the high-speed collisions that ultimately can lead to concussions are eliminated.
I await an explanation. Andrew Aurich with a quality C there and explaining the NFL kickoff. We've had a fabulous week here across all of our distribution on YouTube. Subscribe to Bloomberg Podcast. That's the best way you can help Brockton. He's just, this is the way we get it done. Across the nation on Android Auto, on Apple CarPlay with international distribution there as well. And of course on Sirius XM on the corridor 99.1 FM. In Washington, our flagship, uncongested Midtown next week, Bloomberg 1130 AM, and on 92.9 FM in Boston with Harvard football this weekend. On YouTube podcasts, on Apple Podcasts, single best idea.